The Bhagavadgita, the Upanishads, and the Brahmasutras together constitute the triple canon of Hinduism. They are called prastana traya. The Brahmasutras contain short, pithy statements about the nature of Brahman and Atman and the nature of reality. The Upanishads, they are the end part of the Vedas. They contain knowledge of Brahman, Atman, and various other aspects of our existence. The Bhagavad Gita contains 18 chapters. Of them, the first 6 deal with the nature of soul, the next 6 deal with nature of Supreme Self or Brahman, and the last 6 deal with the relationship between the two. The Brahmasutras contain very short statements, and therefore they give rise to a lot of scope for different interpretations, and they have been interpreted differently because of the vagueness contained in those statements. The Upanishads were mostly part of the secret knowledge which the masters kept with themselves and imparted only to those who they believed were qualified enough. The Upanishads were not meant for dissemination or transmission through any form other than directly. The very meaning of the Upanishad meant sitting nearby. So the knowledge contained in those Upanishads were supposed to be transmitted directly from the master to the disciples. And the process of communication took several years till the disciple understood the meaning and purport of each verse in the Upanishads. They were not taught the new ones. The Bhagavad Gita was originally considered by some as an Upanishad, which was later elevated to the status of a scripture by itself. Over the centuries, several scholars and philosophers tried to interpret these 3 texts in order to justify their respective schools of thought. It was believed that if they could find enough evidence and justification or proof for their own theories, their theories would become acceptable to the general elite of Hindu society. The Bhagavad Gita has been interpreted by various scholars over these centuries. The most prominent among them are Sri Shankraracharya, Sri Ramanuja, Sri Madhavacharya, Sri Vallabhacharya, and many others, some of whom were also followers of these masters. In modern times, it has been interpreted by eminent personalities like Sri Aurobindo, Sri Bala Gangadhar Tilak, Mahatma Gandhi, Pandit Sri K.Radhakrishnan, Sri Vinobha, and in recent times Sri Swami Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada and others. Sri Shankraracharya proposed the theory of monism and interpreted the Bhagavadgita from that perspective. According to his school, the only reality is Brahman, and there is no difference between the individual soul and the universal self. And whatever difference that we experience is because of ignorance or illusion called Maya. According to the vishsitadvaita school of Sri Ramanuja, the difference between the individual soul and the highest self is very subtle. It is called Bheda Abheda, different yet not very different. It is like the difference between the mirror and the objects that are reflected in it. There is seemingly some difference, but in reality they are the same. According to the school of dualism or dvaita philosophy, the individual soul and God are entirely different. God is not his creation. Creation is more or less like the body of God. And God exists in all beings, not as individual self, but as Paramatman, or the Supreme Self, in contrast to the individual self known as Jivatma.